Tonight's art lesson is about the difference between granulating and non-granulating watercolors. And if you are familiar with watercolors, you may have heard those terms before, although you may or may not know what they mean. If you've not painted in watercolors before, there are a huge range of different types of watercolors. Some watercolors come from synthetic pigments. Some waters colors come from crushed stones, which is the original way that we got pigments to begin with before all of these beautiful synthetics came out. Of course, there's a range of colors from bold to subtle. And I have a huge collection here that we're going to be working from tonight. Let me just show you some of them. There they are. And some of them are granulating and some of them are not. I like the Schminke brand of granulating because let me find a tube. It's going to tell you right on the tube right here that it's super granulation. I believe it says, yeah, super granulation right here on the tube. So I like the Schminke paints. This is a watercolor paint. It's a 15 milliliter tube, but I like their granulating paints because it says right on the tube that it's granulating. Oftentimes, other paints that are granulating, you have to search the tube. So, for instance, this one, nope, not that one. Let me find the one I'm looking for here. Is this the one? Nope. Hey, where did I put it? There's the lunar colors here, lunar black, for instance, from Daniel Smith. It does not indicate here. Let me see so that I make sure that I'm saying it right. It's not indicating on the tube that it's a granulating color. Doesn't say anywhere on here granulating, but you know what? It is a granulating color. And so we're going to talk about the differences between those during the workshop. Hey, Love in the Philippines. Hi, Love in the Philippines. Welcome in to the chat. You know what? Best thing, Love in the Philippines on YouTube is if you go into the community tab on YouTube where it says posts, you can put one of your paintings in there. So I have the community open on YouTube to where you can you can make posts yourself. So if you have artwork and you would like to post it on there, that's my understanding is you're able to post it on there and then you can ask me a question. Ask me any questions about artwork and paints, and I will be happy to try to answer those for you and give you as much reference as I can. You know, I have a lot in here, a lot in my brain, and I love to share it with you where it comes to art. So please, Love in the Philippines, feel free to make a post on the community tab of my channel on YouTube. Thanks. And then I see some other folks have said hi. So welcome in, as well as Manny Warbucks over here on Whatnot. Welcome in, welcome in. And so the inspiration for tonight's workshop came from this incredible painting here. It won last year in 2024, it won an award from Plein Air Salon magazine. And it may be difficult to see just in the photograph, but down in this area and in the blue up in this area are granulating watercolors. And I saw that and I said, oh my gosh, that is so cool. That's what I want to share with people for my next workshop. I'm always looking for inspiration from other artists. And that's this painting is where I got the inspiration for this workshop. Let's see the gentleman's name. I don't know if I can pronounce it or not. It's right here. Svetlin Sofrianev, I believe. But that is his work, and I will have a link to his website in the description of the video on YouTube when the workshop is over. So let me also show you some other references that have to do with this granulating watercolors. So I found, and these will be linked in the description of the video tomorrow on YouTube. So you can come back to the video and click on the links and find these artists that I recommend on YouTube. So this is Layla Ataya, artist, and this is a video specifically about granulating watercolors. One of the things that she does in this video, it's about a half an hour long, is she also shows you how to mix colors so that you can get other granulating colors. So yes, you can mix watercolors together to get other colors. And so with the color mixing, she shows you that. This one is by, it says My Fantastical Imaginarium on YouTube. And you can see here, this is some of the granulation. That's all these little dots that you get from some of the colors of watercolor. So this one is Granulation 101. It's a shorter video for you. And then I really appreciated this artist is Ann Kerr Art Studio. And what she did is she actually shows you her process of making a whole painting, and it's not long, it's about a 20-minute video, but showing you how to make a whole painting using very granulating paints. And so this one, what is it? Using granulating watercolors is what she calls it, but she does do a painting for you during this video. And I mean, she's just a sweetheart anyway. I love her. So what I prepared for this workshop is an artwork that's using, it's got that same, remember I was inspired by that other watercolor artist who was doing sailboats and a dock. So I found my own image on Pixabay. Let me show you the image from Pixabay. Pixabay, and I'll have that linked in the description of the video. But this is the one, the picture that I chose from Pixabay, and modified the composition a little bit for myself, but used the same concept in order to create my own watercolor. And if you'll notice up in here, I used granulating watercolors, and down here in the water, I used granulating watercolors. So we're going to be doing a quick sailboat image tonight, and we're going to be using the granulating watercolors. Um, as a matter of fact, on my, oh, thank you, Hanae. Hey, Des said, I love painting, and that's really good. So I appreciate that. I love those comments. Now, on my YouTube channel, under again the community tab, or it might say post, there is an image, an AI image that I created of a sailboat and an evening sunset. So this is available on uh, the community tab and also on my website, which is deetsart.com. If you go there under the events tab, so the event for this workshop, there's also this image, and you can click on it, download it, and print it. Hey, Flower Gazer, welcome in, welcome in. So I was just saying, Flower Gazer, this is an AI image that I created using canva.com. And I did a whole workshop in the past on how to create AI images for your art. So if you're interested in that, it'll be in the playlist under the live tab. And Flower Gazer said, it's so nice to see you. How's the baby? Well, you weren't here earlier. So here's a picture of me with my daughter, the 2-year-old Ashton that I was running around after. And there's the little baby right there. That's Aiden. And so, yep, I was there before the baby was born, and she had the baby at home. So I was there during the birth, running around after the 2-year-old. The cutest, right? I know. They're so cute. She has beautiful little boys. This is another image that I pulled off of Pixabay, And so I like to pull multiple images, both off Pixabay and create some of the AI images for myself. And then that way I can decide and I kind of morph the images together. Isn't that the beautiful thing about being human? Is that we can take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and morph it together and create our own imagery from it. As a painter, the cool thing is we can do anything, right? We can make it look however we want. Also, I wanted to let you know that while I was gone, I was still posting some things on YouTube. So on YouTube, I have a short of this set of watercolors here. It's by Meaden. Just letting you know so that if you missed that, you can go and take a look at my YouTube channel. It's in the shorts area, and it's about this watercolor tin of they call them pastel. They're fluorescent and pastel colors. They're awesome. Awesome colors. Love them. So fun. And so that is in the shorts area on YouTube. And then I did a little bit longer one on the Karen Dosh Neocolor 1. So that's also a YouTube video, but that's a regular video, not a short. And so you can find that on my YouTube channel under the regular videos. So yeah, I was busy and I did create some video content while I was over at my daughter's house, but it was not easy running around after a 2-year-old and creating more content. I can tell you that right now. Let me set those aside so I have more room here. So we are going to start with, first of all, what is a granulating watercolor? And where did I put it? Here I did. So watercolors usually a general watercolor. So let me show you one here. Let's see, it should be in front of me. Where is the yellow? Is it here? Is it here? Wow, where did I put it? Yes. So this is a tube of watercolor paint, and this one is a flat watercolor paint. So it just is the color and it's milled. So meaning when they create the pigment for this paint and they put it together with the binder, which is gum arabic, they have to mill the paint. So it's going to go through big steel rollers. And the smaller the particle size of the pigment that they put in it, the more smooth or flat the paint looks when you put it on your paper. If they are leaving the particle size larger as they're milling it, so, when they're milling it, they can move the rollers to be larger to let larger particles through or tighter in order to really mash those particles up and get it more to be tiny and smooth. And so this one is an example. This is the Horadam Turner's Yellow is an example of a paint where they've milled it very fine and you're going to get a flat finish. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. And then this happens to be the same company, Schminke, and it says on here super granulation. So this is a granulating watercolor, and that means that the particle sizes of the paint that's in here are a little bit bigger. And so when you use a lot of water with it, some of the pigment falls out and makes it look grainy. So let me show you what that looks like. This is that Turner's Yellow, and you'll notice here that the color is very flat, right? There's no graininess in here. And this is actually a piece of cold press watercolor paper. And so cold press watercolor paper has a little bit of texture to it. If it were a granulating paint, um, you would see the texture kind of fall down into those little hills and valleys, or you fall down into the valleys. But if you have a finely ground paint like this Turner Yellow, it's just going to look flat. It's going to look nice and even. But if you've got that granulating color like here, you can see that it looks grainy, right? Some of the paint has fallen down into those little valleys there. So This is using lots of water. If you really want to get a lot of graininess in your granulating colors, you're going to have to use it with lots of water because then those particles float around and they fall down into the crevices of the paper and give you that grainy effect. Okay, so this one is a granulating, this one is a granulating, this one is not granulating. Let's look, what's the next one? This one you can see some granulating, but it's not as pronounced as this is. So different particle sizes, right? And then the one at the bottom here, there's no graininess in this one at all either. So this one at the bottom here is a a color called Atoll Blue. I love this color for water. This is, you could use it for water or for sky, but you see that? Oh, it's so luscious. It's a beautiful turquoise. It's my favorite turquoise right now. Is this one, but it's a flat color. And then this one for either sky or water it's called Deep Sea Blue from Schminke, and it is a um, granulating color. And what I did in my boat painting was I actually mixed these two together. So yes, you can mix a granulating color with a non-granulating color and get some granulation out of that combination. You can also put down a flat color and then go over top of it with a granulating color, and that can also give you some granulation. So there's a way to mix and match these in order to come up with your own combinations and your own glazes. So it's perfectly fine to do that. Now, this green one right here is a little bit different. It is a granulating color, but it's something from Daniel Smith. So this is a Daniel Smith paint tube, watercolor paint tube. And you see the little P that's on that? They have, Daniel Smith has a series of paints that they call Primatech paints. And those Primatech paints are from crushed stone. So this is the green apatite. So apatite is a stone, and right up here it says green apatite genuine. So this is actually from crushed stone, which back in the day, that's how they created their pigments, right? The original cave paintings are from crushed stone. So this is crushed green apatite. And it's interesting because the apatite particles are a little bit larger and they separate, but I find it interesting that it kind of creates a green background and then separates into these little brown particles here. So I enjoy that one a lot for using with florals or landscape type of things, but I also like that it granulates and gives me that little bit of a brown, sort of those brown flecks in it. And so not all granulating pigments have one color. Some granulating pigments will give you multiple colors as it falls down in the water. Here's another one that I like a lot. That's a granulating color. This one happens to be from Schminke. And this one is called what? Volcano Brown. Now, the interesting thing is right on the side of the tube right here, for the Schminke tubes, it tells you what the pigments are. So this is a PR, which is pigment red 108, and a PBK11, which is Mars black. So this is actually a combination, and it looks brown. It's wild. You know, they're taking a red and they're taking a black and they're crushing them together and it looks brown. But it does have a red in it. So the interesting thing is that when you use a lot of water with it, so this is the mass tone, meaning there's not a lot of water in that, and you can just see it's a beautiful rich dark brown, right? But if you look down in here where I used a lot of water, can you see that the red is falling out of suspension and you got these really cool red patches in the background. And I love that. And they call it volcano brown, and it makes perfect sense, right? Because you've got the red falling out of it. Now, I used that red when I was doing um, the dock here. And all of this area is that volcano brown because I wanted it to kind of separate and give me some variation, just like wood is going to have variation to it, right? You don't need just a flat color um, because wood is not even. And so I loved using it for the dock right here. And this one, this part of it where the light is shining here, so I wanted this to be lighter. So I used also a granulating color, but the volcano orange. So what Schminke has done is they've put together some curated sets. And there are 5 tubes in each one of the curated sets. So this is a volcano color, and this is a volcano color, and there would be 3 other volcano colors that go along with it. Now, there is sort of some overlap in their sets because they have 5 sets of 5. They have galaxy colors, they have deep ocean colors. And so what I've found is that I looked at the various colors and then I selected the colors that I wanted for the type of painting that I do. So I did watch a video of a young lady that bought all 5 sets and she tested all 5 sets. And then she has an excellent video on YouTube telling you the ones that she likes and the ones that she doesn't like and why she doesn't like them, which may or may not be what you like. But what I enjoyed in her video is that she's showing you the individual colors in all 5 sets. And she even says, hey, y'all, there's a lot of overlap here. So if you want to just pick and choose individual colors, you actually can buy the individual colors like I did here to get the effects that you want. So that's what I did here. And I put the granulating orange up here and then that volcano brown back here in order to get the variation that I wanted in the color. I didn't want the color to be flat. I wanted the color to have some variation to it. So that's a good reason why you might want to use your granulating colors. Now, there's another line of colors with it. It's 5 tubes, 5 colors within the Daniel Smith line, and they are called the lunar colors. So this one is the lunar black. Actually, on YouTube, I did a video of the lunar colors and I swatched all the lunar colors for you. So you can find that on YouTube. And this one is the lunar black. It's my favorite one that I love to play with because it granulates heavily. So some of the granulating colors, you're like, where the heck is the granulation? You know, there's like barely any granulation there. But the lunar colors I find have a heavy granulation. So this is an example of the lunar black. So I put a little bit of lunar black in here. This is a little, what do they call it? Enamel dish. These are awesome. I'll put a link to them in the video description on YouTube tomorrow. And so there's a little bit of black there. And can you see the granulation in there? That is a heavy granulation. It's just one color. It's just the black. Actually, it should be a BK 11, right? PBK 11. Yep. So it says right on the side there, PBK. Let me put my hand there. Maybe you can see it. PBK 11, which is Mars black, but it's been milled so that the particle size is larger, which gives me this gorgeous granulation. So out of the set of the 5 lunar colors, this is the one that I use the most, which is the lunar black. But some of the other ones, like the lunar blue and the lunar red rock, they're also excellent, beautiful. So Oh, Ella on YouTube said, I'm a DS fan, meaning I'm a Daniel Smith fan. Yes, there are over 200 colors in the Daniel Smith line. I think it's 240 something. But, it's expanding all the time, so it's hard to know. And I have about 10% of their colors, and I have many, 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 maybe a little bit more than 10%. So I have a lot more to get and try. If there are any that any of the colors from Daniel Smith that you're interested in having me swatch for you, on YouTube, I have a series which is just swatching the various colors of different watercolor paints. So right now I have Schmincke paints and I have Daniel Smith paints that I've been working on, but I also ordered some Old Holland paints, watercolors. I have um, Daler Brownie's Aquafine. There's another one as well. Well, I have Holbein. So I have just hundreds more to do the little swatches on. And then I put the swatches on my shorts channel. So if you're on YouTube and you want to check out those shorts, if there's a particular color that you want me to do next, on my next set of swatches, let me know, send me a message, and I will be happy to do that, or put it in the comments here and I'll write it down and I'll make sure that I do that color next. If I don't have it, I'll see if I can get it because I have a lot of the 5 milliliter tubes. So the watercolors in general will come in this is a 15 milliliter tube. So core watercolors is 14 milliliters is their large size. Oh yeah, that's right. I have core watercolors to do as well from Golden. Now this is a 5 milliliter size. So actually when you're looking and you're searching online, um, yes, Ella asked, do you work with the Primatech? Yes, and I have tons of Primatech colors, by the way. Those are Daniel Smith. Those are the stone colors that I just showed. So this one I showed just a moment ago, it has the little P on it. This is the green Apatite Genuine, and this is a Primatech color. So I already have a swatch on my YouTube shorts of this green Apatite, and I have many, many more of the Primatech that I have done. Now, my understanding is there are 36 colors in the Primatech line. That's the crushed stones from Daniel Smith. I only have about 15 of them. And so I have already posted in the shorts on YouTube most of my Primatech colors, but I have more. I have many more. I do have more that I have to do. Actually, I have some that I've already filmed that are not up yet, even like Bronzite, which is one of my favorites. And those are the crushed stones, Primatech colors from Daniel Smith. Now, this one right here, again, I was showing you, this is a 5 milliliter tube. This is a Primatech. I like that they put the P on it, so it's very prominent. A lot of the Primatech colors are granulating, so that's also helpful to know that these Primatech colors from Daniel Smith that are the crushed stones tend to granulate. This one, oh, one of my favorite colors, Mayan Blue Genuine. And so there's already a video out on YouTube for this Mayan Blue Genuine if you want to go see what it looks like when I swatch it. But what I was saying is when you're buying, oh yeah, Ella said, sorry, just tuned in. That's fine. That's fine, Ella. I'm happy to answer any questions, even if you have just tuned in. But when you're buying watercolors, sometimes they are available in these 5 milliliter tubes. So if you want to try a color, it can be helpful to get it in the 5 milliliter like this, um, instead of buying the 15 milliliter where you're really making a commitment like this. Part of it has to do with how much watercolor do you use when you paint. I use a lot. And the reason that I use a lot of paint when I'm painting is, um, my philosophy is don't be precious with your paint. I mean, Lord knows I have hundreds of tubes of watercolor. I have hundreds of tubes of acrylics. I have not as many oils, but I have some oils. And you know what? If we don't use it, they go hard or they get damaged. So use your paint. Squeeze a bunch of it out there and just use it like crazy. Actually, what I do is if I have leftover watercolors, so I like to put my watercolors in a, I put them in different kinds of palettes, but I also like just a plate for a project like this. And so when I'm done, I have paint left on my that plate, right? And so what I do is I make paintings. Let me see if I can show you right here. I make paintings out of the leftover paint. So that's an example of where I used the paint that was left on my palette, but I created a type of painting out of it. So I like to have these 8" by 8" or 5 by 7 um, watercolor pads. And that way, when you have leftover paint, you can just use it up on something like that. It's awesome. But again, look for, if you just want to try a paint, look for either a set or the individual tubes in 5 milliliter sizes. And that way you can try it. Now, I have tried this Mayan blue and I'm like, holy cow, I love this color. I use this color a lot. You can see I've already used up almost half of it. And so I will be buying it in full size. That's the 15 milliliter the next time I buy it. Sometimes, though, you can only get them in the large size like this. So, um, in an individual tube. Um, but another company that I like to get them from is the Blick store. So if you're on my website, deetsart.com, you'll see banners for the Blick store, and you can go there to buy the paints. And I let people know that I don't sell paint except for a few custom sets like this in little pans that I can make up myself from the big tubes. I sell those on Whatnot, and I also sell my finished artworks on Whatnot. But any paint that you want to buy other than that, um, it you can just use my link on my website for that because I don't sell paint uh, on Whatnot. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, two things. One is that I'm going to be using the cold press watercolor paper today. So this is my favorite Canson XL watercolor paper. The Canson XL comes also in a mixed media paper, but I like the watercolor paper best, even for my mixed media artwork, because it is 140 pounds. So you see here where it says 140 pounds, 300 GSM. That is the thicker paper. And so I like to build my artwork up on the thicker paper. There was this little thing going on YouTube. An artist has said, oh, she had sold a piece of artwork on the Canson XL paper. And somebody lit into her and was like, how can you sell your finished artwork on Canson paper? And it's like, oh my gosh, settle down. It's acid-free paper. It is archival. It's going to last you the next 50, 100 years. If you treat it well, it'll last you hundreds of years, if not thousands. So it's like, cool your jets. It's fine. It's fine. A lot of my artwork, the smaller pieces, are done on the Canson XL paper. But if you're going to do a larger piece and you are intending to sell that larger piece for thousands of dollars or many hundreds of dollars, you may want to consider using a 100% cotton paper. This Canson XL paper is not 100% cotton. It's just that the 100% cotton is supposed to last the longest under museum conditions. So but I don't worry about that. I just want, oh, look at that. We've got a raid coming in. Let's see, who was it from? Who was it from? I held candy art. Welcome in. Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk about, I was showing you the paper. Now the paper, this Canson XL paper is cold press. That means that there is a texture to the surface right here, light texture. There's another kind of paper called hot press watercolor paper, and that is smooth. I prefer the cold press with my granulating colors because I find that you have those little hills and valleys so that the granulation can settle down in the little valleys. There's another type of watercolor paper called rough. And so you can imagine that has even a rougher surface, which is also fantastic for using with granulating colors. And then when I am doing my drawing, so this is the image that we're working from. If you're on YouTube, you can find it under my post from yesterday on YouTube. Your new, oh, excellent, Ella. Welcome in over on Whatnot. In order to transfer that image onto the paper, you can use one of two techniques. One technique is you can just hand draw it onto there. And if you hand draw it, I like to use watercolor pencils, and I switch between the colors of the watercolor pencils. So I'm using green if I'm doing foliage. I'm using the blue if I'm doing something in the water. I'm using brown if I'm doing, like when I did the dock, I used brown. So that's the nice thing about having just a basic set of watercolor pencils, is that you can use the various colors of pencils, and then as you're painting, those lines just melt into your design. Or the other way that I like to transfer imagery is I like to use a transfer paper. So you can buy transfer paper in packs of different sizes. Usually it's a 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12. I like when I'm in my studio, I like my paints to be super juicy, and so I like to use them out of a tube. But if you're traveling somewhere, often you will want to put your paints in a pan. So let me show you one of these pans. So this is a travel set, and you see all the pans that I have in there. So it is possible to put the paints in the pans and then use them, reactivate them from the pans. I just spray it with water or drip water on it and then reactivate it that way. Um, okay, so I was just talking about transferring the image. You can use this transfer paper. So I like to buy the roll of transfer paper. So this is by Jack Richardson, and that's just because I need a lot of it. I do a lot. Plus, I want to be able to cut off the size that I want. So you notice this is a long tube, right, of transfer paper. So I can cut it to whatever size I want in order to be able to use it, and it lasts a long time. I mean, geez, I probably had this one 4 years, something like that. So, um, yeah, it lasts a long time because it's not just single use. You can use it over and over and over again. And I'm actually going to show you using this in order to transfer the image. One other thing is most of my artwork is mixed media, meaning not just watercolor. I often will use acrylic markers or even watercolor markers on top of the work. So recently I got my hands on these grabby, these are acrylic markers, and a black and a white, and it's a, there you go, it's a fine tip. Isn't that nice? So it's acrylic paint, but it's water based. And so I actually use that in my painting here in order to go in. So I painted the whole thing, and then I went back and I put these black lines in right here. And you see the little tiny white lines on there. The background, or this sail, was done in watercolor, but after it was dry, I went back with the white marker and put in all those little detail lines. So I think it's handy when you're doing watercolor to have some sort of like fine tip permanent marker to be able to go back into it. Um, I mean, I have all different kinds and colors of pencils. You can even use watercolor pencils. A lot of people will go back into their watercolor artwork with a watercolor pencil to shade or define certain areas. And then because it is a watercolor pencil, you can decide whether you want to hit it with a little bit of water to liquefy it or just leave it as a pencil. So those are some other ways to enhance that. Oops, hold on, let me go here. Great. So we are going to go up over top of the table. So what we're going to start out with, we have to transfer this image onto the paper. And you'll notice that the paper is a 9 by 12, but the image is not a 9 by 12, but that's okay. We're going to start by just sort of deciding where we want to place things on the page. And then let's see, this is going to be smack dab in the middle, which is not where I want it. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I kind of, as I'm looking at my composition, I'm making decisions about do I want, where do I want the sailboat? Where do I want the land here to be? And I don't want this line right here to be smack dab in the middle of the paper. Otherwise, it cuts the paper in half for your composition. So I actually want it, either want it a little bit higher so that you have more water in front of you, or you want it a little bit lower than the middle so that you have more sky up here, whichever you want to feature. So I actually like the sky a lot. Also, the boat is way over on the left side, and I want to bring it a little bit more over to the right. So that's those are some decisions I'm going to make here. And then I'm going to use some painter's tape, and I'm going to tape this down like this. Okay, let's just take a piece of painter's tape like that. And then this transfer paper has a dark side. That's where in this case, the graphite is. And who is it? Saral makes these transfer papers in many different colors. So you can get it in red, you can get it in blue, you can get it in yellow, you can get it in white. When I work on black paper, I use the white transfer paper, and that's by a company called Saral, Saral. But this Richardson paper is my favorite for the basic like pencil graphite color. I like the way it transfers down. This is the dark side and this is the light side. So let me bring it up a little bit more. There's the dark side and there's the light side. So we're going to put the dark side down because that's where the graphite is. And I'm actually going to lift this up just a little bit so that that tape will capture the uh, the transfer paper as well. So now we've got them both in there. And then you can use a pencil, you can use a ballpoint pen, or you could even use like anything hard like this. Um, where are they? They're also these things right here, which is a ball stylus, right? It has a little stylus on the end. I usually will use a pen because I want to be sure that I can see where I have outlined. And if I'm doing the same image multiple times, let's say I'm doing a series and I'm using different colors, then I may use 3 or 4 different color pens so that I can see where I've outlined. The main thing here, of course, is the sailboat. So I'm going to use a medium pressure and come here and do the sail like this. I'm not worrying too much about it being perfect. I just want to get the idea down there. And then this is the sailboat part here. And you can paint in the details, like the striping and all that. You can paint that in later. Here's the back end of the boat. And let me just make sure I got that okay. This is the cabin part of the boat. And then it comes down and goes like that. Uh, Here is the mast. single mast boat right here. And what I'll do later is I will look at where the lines are, because a boat has lots of lines on it, in order to hold the sails and hold the masts. And I usually will put those in at the end using one of those, some sort of pen, whether it's an acrylic pen or whatever. So here is the other sail. Like I said, if you want to get yourself this printout, this is an AI image that I created on Canva. So feel free to print it out and use it as you like. Let's see. So that was the sail. And I kind of like, I want to put for my own reference this line in right back here. It's going to the back. Okay. And see, I'm not putting in the little windows here or anything. I can always do that later. I think I did the back here already. Yeah. Okay. And then here's like a thing here. And then I want to do the mountain. So the mountain sort of comes along here, and then it goes up along here. Make sure that you're pressing sort of medium to hard. Then we're going to bring this up, and we're creating the mountain. I'm going here. There are actually two levels to the mountain. So there's a front, there's the way in front, there's the middle ground, and then there's in the back here. So then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the back mountains here like this. And I don't have to have the line go all the way because I can just paint it all the way. Let's look at do I need to do anything? Yeah, I'm going to do the placement here because that's the horizon. There's another mountain in the background here, which is kind of purpley, which is great. The purple's going to look, purple and pink will look beautiful with that, the granulating. All right. The rest of this we can just put in ourselves by looking at the picture. Now, what I'm going to do, I usually will hold my hand on um, on both the transfer paper and the image, and then I'll lift it and that holds it in place, and I'll make sure that I have everything that I want. So I've got the sail, I have the outline of the boat, I have the outline of the mountain. Let's see, this outline sort of ends, so everything's still in its place. And I can come here and I'm trying to do that middle, redefining that middle ground. Let me make sure that I've got what I need. Yes. Now I didn't do this part right here, which is the foreground. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, there we go. So now I've got, yes, I have the foreground, the background, the sailboat. Fabulous. Okay. So now if I'm satisfied with what I have here, then I can go ahead and I can tear this off, right? Because you want to be sure that it's placed in its proper place if you're adding more lines. But once you're happy with your lines, you can pull it off. Let me see if I can get this off without tearing that too badly. A little bit. Think. There we go. Okay. So I will be using this picture as my reference for like, what is it I'm going to paint, right? So it's a guide to the colors. I mean, you don't have to do these colors at all if you don't want to. You can go totally wackadoodle and do whatever colors you want because that's what we get to do as artists. But I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to stand it somewhere where I can basically see it so I know what colors I'm working with. Now, let's pick out the colors and put them. What I do is I decide where I want to work on the painting, and then I usually work from the top to the bottom. And sometimes I will go in and put items in the middle ground that I want to dry before I get started on the other layers. But for the most part, I work top to bottom. And you can imagine the reason for that is that I tend to get my hand in there. Hey, Stephanie Skillen over on YouTube, welcome in, welcome in. And Sarah over on Whatnot, welcome in. So I find often I end up getting my arm or my hand in my paint. So it's easiest for me to work from top to bottom. And as far as right to left, it depends on whether you're right-handed or left-handed. I generally work on the whole painting, going like this. So from top to bottom. Now, when I do the sails, I'll likely just leave them white for now and probably do them last, like put in the mountain and all that, and then do the sails. Another technique that you can do is you can use something called um, masking fluid. So I have masking fluid right here. This is the Pebeo masking fluid. Let me see if I have a jar handy or not. I don't always have a jar handy. Doesn't look like it. Um, yes, actually, I do have it. We might do that right now because that might be a good idea. Ooh, nothing like doing things on the fly, right? So let me get my masking fluid out here. And okay, okay, okay. Mm. Let me see if I think I have a fresh masking fluid right in this box right here. These are my watercolor inks. Do I have one? Yes. Okay, so this is a masking fluid. So yay, we're gonna do that. That's gonna be fun. So you get to see, that's a bonus. I was not expecting to do that, but I think it'll work well for this particular kind of project. Now, you do not want to use a good brush for applying masking fluid. You want to use a um, cheapo brush that you really don't care about because it's going to get ruined. Here's a good one that I have lots of these because these are just they're not throwaway brushes, but they're just cheap brushes from what I use when I'm teaching children. So let me take that and I am going to apply, oops, while I was talking, I must have touched it. Let's see. This is my favorite eraser, y'all. The Statler Mars plastic. So I got a little bit, I must have made a mark on there. If these lines are too dark for you, sometimes people go, oh, they don't want all those lines showing through. Whatever. I don't mind the lines showing through, but if you want the lines, this is just graphite that was on the other side of that transfer paper. So some people, after they do the transfer, will use an eraser like this, and they'll make the lines a little bit lighter so that you, as the painter, can still see them, but then they're not as prominent underneath your watercolors. Of course, if you're working with acrylic colors and those acrylic colors are opaque, you don't have to worry about that at all because you're going to cover them up, right? But let's just do that like that. And this way, it just makes the lines a little bit lighter. There we go. Which will be harder for you to see, but there you go. Quick and easy, right? Oh, love it. Let's, oh, there is one little spot right here where it's kind of heavy. There. So what we're going to do with this is Pebio's drawing gum, but that's their name for a masking fluid, or sometimes it's also called, and you'll see it on the label here, liquid frisket. So if you ever see the word frisket, it's a masking fluid of some sort. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the cheap brush. Now, what some people do is they will put soap on their cheap brush, and then when they're done, they'll rinse it off. I don't like to do that. I like to just use the brush as it is because I find I get better control and better placement that way. But that's just me. Okay. Now, you can work directly from the bottle, But what I find happens is the more this bottle is exposed to air, the quicker the latex in it begins to solidify. So, what I like to do is take a little bit of it and pour it into a cup like that. So that way I'm working, it's already beginning to solidify because I've had it for a little while. Where's a paper towel? So if it looks thick, you can actually add a little bit of water to it. So let me get a dropper. I'm going to just use a dropper and I'm going to put 1 or 2 drops of water in there. Yee, there we go. And that way I can make it a little thinner. So it's okay if you put a little bit of water in it. I saw before that with Pebio's drawing gum, you can go up to 50% water, but that's if you want to spray it or you want to spatter it. You can do that, which is great for doing like a spray on the top of a wave or something like that. It's awesome. Let me see. That is annoying me right there. Okay. So here is the drawing gum in there with my brush. This is a liquid latex. So we're just going to put it here where our sail is going to be. And what this is going to do is it's going to mask or prevent the watercolor from uh, getting on that area. Let's see here. I apologize if you were looking at the event on my website. I did not put this as I did not put the masking fluid as something on the item list because I just decided to use it. So it will be on the list of products on the uh, the YouTube video in the description tomorrow. I'll put it on there. Okay. So I'm just following along on the inside here. Now, what you want to be, if you make a mistake, if I go, oh my goodness, I made a mistake. Let's do this. Boop. Let's say I got a little bit of it right there. Oh my gosh, I got it where I didn't want it. Don't worry, just let it dry and then I'm going to show you how we roll it right off, okay? Because it just rolls off. So here is the other one that I want to what I'm doing is I'm preserving the white of the paper. So here we go with the masking fluid. And then go along there. Nice. And this is liquid latex. So I'm actually not touching the latex. Um, if you have a latex sensitivity, you're going to want to wear gloves. Okay. If you have a sensitivity to the smell of latex, some people do, then you're going to want to buy a masking fluid that is non-latex. And Pepio has a non-latex drawing gum. I just don't happen to have it right here to show you, but they do have one that is non-latex. Okay, awesome. So this is going to repel water when it's dry. Now, some people ask me, can they use like a heat tool on the masking fluid to keep the masking fluid from, or to heat, to cause it to dry faster? And that is not recommended. And the reason it's not recommended is that what'll happen is if you heat the masking fluid, it will potentially soak into your paper and then you won't be able to get it back up. And that would be a disaster, right? You do not want that to happen. Okay, that's close enough. Close enough. Now, I've got masking fluid on my brush here, and I want to clean my brush, but I don't want to clean my brush in my regular water. Okay, don't do that with masking fluid. Any kind of Frisket masking fluid drawing gum. Do not clean it in the water that you're going to use your brushes in. Okay, please. Ah, Because what happens is when this gets dry, it turns into rubber, literally. You do not want this going down your sink, okay? Do not ever pour this, any liquid frisket, any liquid masking fluid, don't pour it down your sink. You want this to go in the garbage, okay? So I would put a little bit of paper towel in there like this, so it just soaks it up, boop, and throw that, oops, throw it in the garbage, okay? What's going to happen is as it dries, it's going to turn into rubber, little rubbery latex pieces. You don't want that ever going down your sink. I'm sure you can imagine why. It will line um, your pipes with rubber. You don't want that. Okay. So I'm throwing that away in the trash, but I have a brush here that has that in here. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I'm just going to use a separate cup and I'm going to put some water in the separate cup like this. Okay. And then I'm going to rinse it in a separate cup like this. Okay. And now this has become a frisket brush, meaning that I'm only going to use this brush now for masking fluid. Okay. Because what happens is you end up getting latex rubber down inside the bristles here, and it's going to begin to get hard as you use it. And there's nothing you can do. If someone knows what the what is it called? The if you know what the solvent is for latex, let me know, because then that might be something that you could clean your brush with. But once I've used this brush for, that's my rule. Once I've used it for latex, then I only use it for latex. Okay. A way that you can get around that is to oh, come back here, you can use this is a tool that has, you can fill it from here. I don't want it to get on my painting, so let me move that out of the way. So this, you can fill, oh, do you see the rubber? Can you see that? The rubber. Okay, because it's old and it's beginning to go bad, so there's some rubber. That's what happens. It turns into rubber. You don't want that in your pipes, do you? So this is a device that has, it's a pen and it has a nib like this. So if you wanted to write or you wanted to draw, I use this for drawing with the liquid latex. Now it looks like the liquid latex may have solidified in there because I haven't used it for a while. Yep, you see there, no liquid latex left in there. So I'll keep the top and I'll just throw this away because it's now got liquid. I mean, it's got not liquid, but it just has rubber inside it. It's okay. You can buy these in packs of 3. So I'll include a link to them. They are awesome. You can actually screw this on top of any sort of bottle that will accept this size, and then squeeze it and use it to draw with. They're awesome. Um, So I'm going to throw this away right now because it's no good. It's got rubber in it. Okay, let's get back to here so I can show you this. So that part that's down here, that was, I said, oh, look, I made a mistake, right? So if you feel like you made a mistake, you can get that off by rolling it off with your finger like this. Bye-bye. So now it's no longer there. So now I'm going to roll this one off. You can either roll it off with your finger or there's something called a rubber cement eraser. And if I have a lot of it to do, then I use a rubber cement eraser so I don't lose my fingerprint, right? But it comes right off the paper. You see that? Oh my gosh. There it is. It's awesome. It's just rubber, latex rubber. And I'm going to put that into the trash bin. There we go. So now I have protected the white area here and here where my sails are. So I can go ahead and I can paint all around it. And when this paint is dry, I can come back, roll this off, and then just work on the sails. Isn't that cool? I could do that also for the sailboat if I wanted to. So any area that you want to preserve the color, and you don't have to do it just on the white paper. You could paint part of your artwork, then use the liquid latex once it's dry, and then paint over top of that when the latex is dry and make multiple layers. So just so you're aware, drawing gum is awesome. Where did I end up putting it? Here it is. So, uh, liquid frisket or masking fluid, fantastic for watercolors. All right, this, which was the water that I rinsed my brush in, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to put some paper towel in it and I'm to soak it up and I'm going to stick it in the garbage. Bye bye. Right? Not down the sink. Never, never, never. Okay. So let's go ahead and pick some colors out and get to painting. Let's see, in this image, there is a kind of a purpley gray up here. Do you see that? Like a blue purple. So I want to lay that in first because that's at the top here, right? And so I'm going to do a combination of this granulating deep sea blue and what I'm going to do a touch of this is the Schminke Wild Purple. There are a couple of colors that Schminke puts out that they call their signature edition or limited edition. So if you see them and you're interested, just buy it right away because they go out once they're sold out. That's it. Like this one is the Atoll Blue that I was showing you I like for the water. And it's also signature edition. So I'm considering buying another tube of this while it's still available because once it's gone, we don't know if they're ever going to bring it back again. So we're going to mix these two to get this sort of interesting sky blue here and put that in first. So let me get back to my plate. Love using this plate. So I'll in the YouTube video, I'll put a link to this plate. This is just a Corel, so it's Corel ware, but I like that it's long like this, so I can put it on my painting area, and it's really easy to mix my paints in. So let's put a little bit of this deep sea blue from Schminke here. I found for some reason this paint is like super hard. I don't know why. Okay, there's the blue. And so I just put out a little, and I can always come back and add more. Not a problem. Here's the wild purple. Oh my gosh, this wild purple is beautiful. So on the side, it shows you what the colors are that are in it. It's a PV19, a PB29, and a PG17. So that is a violet, a blue, and a green. I don't know what that PG17 is. That's interesting. Why do you think you would put a green in with a purple color? I don't know. But anyway, there we go. It's this wild purple is quite dark. So let's get a brush going. And I'm going to use, let's see, for the sky, this is a Princeton Neptune brush. It's the 1/2 inch oval wash. Some people call it a cat's tongue because of the shape of it there. So I'm just going to get that wet. Woo, here we go. I'm going to get that wet. I always have a paper towel handy. And so let's take some of the blue. This is the deep sea, which is a granulating blue, which is awesome. So I'm going to take some of that and I'm going to add to it a little bit of the purple, which is quite strong. Ooh, yeah, look at that. That's beautiful. Gorgeous. Okay, let's put a little bit more blue in there. Nice. Plenty of water. For these background areas, I usually go very lots of water. And later I will, as I get more detailed, then I use less water so I have a thicker paint. But we're just going to go, it kind of comes down about this far, doesn't it? And Like I said, plenty of water. Now I can go right over top of this um, masking fluid because uh, the masking fluid is already dry. Oh yeah, let's make it really purpley up here. Okay. I like the Neptune brushes like this because they hold a lot of water. So when you're doing those backgrounds, it's great to have something like that. Now, I want this to be very wishy-washy. And the reason is because I'm going to be using a paper towel to pull out some of the clouds. Okay. So if you're able to keep this nice and wet, then you can come in and you can pull out just by using a damp paper towel. I've got my finger in there. So I'm going to pull out some clouds like this. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want the orange to mix with the blue because when color theory says if I mix the orange and the blue together, I'm going to get mud. I'm going to get a muddy color. So I'm just putting in some areas where I can drop in some orange and there's not going to be too much interaction with the blue, right? This is another way that you can also just get clouds, get back to the white of your paper. Okay, let me do that there. All right, let's look over here. A little bit more in this area. If it starts to get dry, like it's starting to get dry now, it's fine. You can always drop a little more water in there. And the beautiful thing about watercolors is that they reactivate. So can you see how you can get back to the white of the paper there? Lovely. Okay. So that's just some areas where I have a little bit of that. I'm actually going to come in with a little bit more color here. Ooh, just, you know what? Have fun. No stress. You know, most of the time I don't do commissioned artworks. That means people say, I want this and I want it looking like this because then, you know, you kind of lose a little bit of that spontaneity, the freedom. Okay, there we go. Nice. I likey. So that is this upper area in here. Now that will have to dry before I come in with the orange, but down below here, I can begin to put in the orange sky, right? So let's look at what do we have that's orange? We have, this is, believe it or not, this is orange. It's a Daniel Smith quinacridone sienna, but it's orange. It's crazy. And it is just, it's a gorgeous orange. But man, let me tell you, it is orange. So let me show you the little swatch that I've done of it. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? I have a whole pile of swatches here. Where did I end up putting them? Here they are. So let me show you. This is the quinacridone sienna. Who'd have thought, right? Most of the time sienna looks like a brown, but Daniel Smith's quin sienna looks like an orange. Okay. Woof. All right. So we're going to work in this area right here and put some of that quin orange in there. Now, the sun, the setting sun is over here somewhere. So I'm actually going to use this color, which is Aussie red gold for where the sun is. Let me show you that one. Colors. I was introduced to this Aussie red gold and the quinacridone sienna of Daniel Smith by another artist. I was watching his video and he was showing him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have those. So I ordered them right away. But there's our Aussie, as in Australian, red gold. So what you'll notice is it's got a deeper color up here, but you see that just soft yellow right there. It's like a yellow orange, and that's kind of what we're dealing with here is a yellow orange, right? So let me I'm actually going to use a combination of these two. I want the sun from here, and then I want some of that orange punch from there. But I'm going to start out with the Aussie red gold, and then we'll move into the quinacridone sienna. Okay, let me see if I can put this over here so I can see it, but it's not. I have a little thing that holds pictures for me, but it's in the other room right now, of course. Okay, so now let's go here. So I'm going to put out a little bit of that Aussie red gold here. And oh, it is just, I think right now, this is one of my favorite colors right now, the Aussie red gold. It's just because it's a red and it's a gold. It's just, wow, amazing. So let me show you that. You see that incredible yellow? And yet this looks like a dull orange. It's like, what? Yeah, it's amazing. So I don't want too much. I want it to be more watery and just a suggestion of yellow here for where the sun's going to go as it's setting. So the sun is right here. Oh, nice. Nice. So I'm just going to put that here. I try to put in the lighter colors like this first. And now we want it to sort of glow from there. So, and if it's too much for you, just use your paper towel and lightly tap it and pick up some of the color. So you see there, it's a little more variation, but it's also, not quite so in your face because this Aussie red gold is super pigmented. Yeah. Okay, let's dip a little bit more into the color. So now we're getting a little bit darker version. And I'm going to go around this. So now I'm just creating sort of that glow, right? So there's a mountain there. So I'm trying to go around the mountain. I don't want to interfere with that mountain, but let's create a little bit of a glow around there. Mm. Because, right, it's going to be super pale in the middle, and then you're going to begin to get a darker glow as it goes out. And that's the nice thing about the Aussie red gold is that you can get that variation just from one color. It's unbelievable. Okay, there. And then let's begin to get it just a little bit darker. So I'm taking just a little bit more from it. And let's do the next sort of ring around there. So it's getting a little bit darker like that. All from one color. It's crazy. It's crazy. There we go. Like that. Bringing it out here. Just sort of making the glow happen. Interesting. I'm not worrying about clouds because if you look in the image, the clouds are orange in this area. And so it'll just be a heavier orange on top of orange. So I don't have to worry about it being going on top of there. It'll go on top of there just fine. All right, let's pull in a little bit more of the reddish version of it. It's really red over here. So let's just bring that in around the mountain like that. A lot more red in this area, right? And then also up in here, you see how it's almost red? Nice. So this is just, we're going to be putting those other clouds over on top of this. So don't worry about it too much. It doesn't have to be perfection. I'm not going for perfection. I'm just going for a quick painting. All right. Let's get it even a little bit more. Like over here, we want that dark, almost red version of it. And I can go right over top of this because it's waterproof, that frisket, right? It's awesome. Awesome. I'll show you up close in just a second how that works. Okay, and then I'm going to get even more of the thickness so it's even redder. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm freaked out about this color lately. I'm so glad I watched that other artist. I don't even remember his name, but he was saying, "This is what's on my palette right now." I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have that. It's okay. You can obsess over watercolors, okay? It is a-okay. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit more kind of fun in there, right? So we're softer up to more punchy. And don't worry if you're like, oh my gosh, I put too much of the dark color. You just get it wet like this, right? Just water on here right now. And then I'm just blending them together. And I want a nice light color down here, like this. So this part right here. Oop, where's the mountain going up? Okay, so it looks like there's a line right there, and I just went past it. So if you want to take, this is a clean brush. This is a scrubber. It's called the Princeton Velvet Touch Willows Blender. It's a blender brush. And I'm like, hey, I just went down too far. So I want to pick some of that color up. So I just put fresh water on this blender, and then I can take some of that back up. Some colors like yellows and reds often are staining colors, so you won't necessarily be able to get it all out, but it doesn't matter because the color that's going to go over top of that area is like a purpley thing, and that'll be fine. Okay, there we go. So back to softening. Right now you can see sort of lines there, right? And I want to soften that a little bit. So I'm just bringing in water and I'm softening those areas. There we go. So that I can get them just a little more. I like the transitions to be a little softer. If you have a good quality watercolor paint, you can do this. You can work back into it and move it and adjust it. You'll find sometimes when you have your lesser expensive watercolor paints, you're like, why is it not lifting back up? But sometimes that's just because that's the nature of the quality of the paint that you have. So the Daniel Smith paints and the Schmincke paints and the Holbein paints, those are all excellent quality, professional quality watercolors. So you can really do a lot to them like I am right now. Put them down, lift them up, uh, make them, play with them, get them the way you want them. There, it's not completely soft. If you have cotton paper, 100% cotton paper, it's easier in general to work back into it. Sometimes, if you have a paper like this that's part cellulose, what'll happen is as you try to work back into it, it can it can pill. You may get the paper itself may start to pill. So it does help to have a good quality paper. And this is a good quality paper. It's just not a 100% cotton. So I can't scrub it quite as much as I'd be able to if I were on a 100% cotton paper. Okay. So that's why, some artists are like, oh, you're using something less than 100% cotton. It's like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. Take a breath. Take a deep breath. It's okay. Right. Ooh, isn't that fun? That's fun. So I know you can see it there, but you can see like the lightest part right there, right? So now let's go down into the mountain. And we've got a lot of purple, a lot of pinky purple in this mountain. The mountains in the very, very, very background right here are actually quite pink. So let's start with, let's see, what are we going to use for the pink? I love this. This is a granulating color, the Galaxy Pink. So let's work with the Galaxy Pink. And actually, I'm going to put it over here where I also have that purple. And the blue, doesn't matter that the blue's in there. When you have the farther away your mountains are, or your landscape, the hazier it gets, and it's usually a little bit of a blue haze, so it's fine if I have a little bit of blue in there. So let's work with the pink, and I want just lots of water, just a hint of pink, like along the top here. So this is the way, 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 way in the background, and actually that is too dark, but that's okay. I'll just add some more water to it, right? But there we go. We're putting a little bit of that. This should be a granulating color, which will, you'll really be able to see the granulation once it dries. But there we go. Not bad. Okay. So then if it's too much color, that's why I always have a paper towel in my hand. Let me get a fresh one because that one's all wet. You can always do this right away and pick up some of the color. So you see how all of a sudden it got light, right? It got a lot lighter because I picked up some of the pigment. So what I'm seeing in my image is it's lighter up here because that's being affected by the sun, right? And then it's going to go darker toward a purple, blue purple as it goes down. So let me just grab this. So I've got a little bit of the purple here, and I have some of the blue, right? Because I want the blue to be in there. Yeah, actually, I need more of the blue. Okay, there we go. So let's bring that down in here. So now the color's a little more purpley, a little more blue, and that's the horizon. There we go. Let me just, the horizon should be pretty straight. So let me just see if I can straighten that a little bit more. Okay. And then what I'm seeing is it needs to be a little more blue right along the bottom. Now this brush, I could do it with this brush because it has this tip to it, but I'm going to, since I only want to get it right here, I'm going to move to a brush that has a more narrow tip to it. And I'm going to bring in more of this blue. So I'm just going to drop some of that blue right in there. Doop. There we go. And because it's still wet, it's just sort of going, it's blending up a little bit. And if I want it to blend a little bit more, what am I going to do? I'm just going to drop some more water in there and pull it up so it'll blend and soften, blend and soften. It's all good. Let's get a little bit more of that color in there. Fun. So we've got that soft, like way, way, way back in the distance. And I want a little bit, just the tiniest bit more of that sort of hazy blue along here. There we go. Nice. Okay. So let me bring it up so you can see. Now, normally your water would be coming up to here, right? And so you want to consider, am I going to be putting blue water up against the blue base of the mountains? Well, in this particular case, I'm actually going to be doing orange way over here. So I don't have to worry about the how much blue I have right there because what's going to be butted up against it is an orange. So I'm good. I'm good. All right, let's see. Let's go into these mountains here, right? Because I'm working from the top down. We'll come back a little bit later and we'll put our orange clouds in here, right? Let's see, I dropped a little bit of water on there. Okay, so I'm going to move back to my cat's tongue, this one. And let's see. Oh, it's coming along, coming along. I like where it's going so far. All right. So these mountains here, this is a little bit purplish in here. So we've got a light purple and a dark purple. So usually when you're looking at a landscape, the part that's right up at the top that meets the sky is, the sun's coming from over here. So anything that's on this side over here where the sun would hit is where you want the lightest part of it. So I'm going to start with a nice light part. The nice thing is we already have some color on here, so I can just keep pulling from that color. So I want a light pink to start, and I'm just going to do the front side of these mountains. It's okay that it's blush, it's barely there. That's fine. You can always deepen it. That's the thing with watercolor in general. You go from light to dark. So if I put a light color on and it dries and I'm like, where the heck did the color go? It's okay. I can just add more color. I can deepen the color with more layers. That's fine. So I've got a little bit. Can you see the little bit of that pinky purple on there near the top and coming down the side like that? Nice. Okay, and then we're going to come back in with a darker. Usually, when I'm working on an area like the mountains, each one of these mountains is going to have three different layers of color. You're going to have your lightest light, your mid-tone, and your dark. That's the way I like to work on it. Um, you don't have to do that. If you prefer a more solid looking color, you can just do one mountain, one color, one mountain, another color, and another mountain set another color, right? You don't have to get so fancy. But I find for me, I like to do them in light, medium, and dark tones. So we just put the light tone in for that mountain. Now we're going to go a little heavier. So do I want the pink? Maybe I'm going to do a combination of the pink and the purple. Nice. So now we're going for a mid-tone. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put some mid-tone. Woo! And that mid-tone is dark, but I can always use a little bit of water, right? If I think it's too dark. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And let's come in here because we're doing this on the quick, right? We're doing it quick, quick, quick. I'm not spending 2 days on this painting, right? Okay, now I just have water and I'm gonna soften these edges a little bit and sort of get the colors to blend with each other. You don't have to do that. You can just leave the hard line. That's also fine. I just wanted to soften it a little bit with water. There we go. Just sort of blend them, bring them in together a little bit. There we go. Nice. Okay, let's do that here too, because it's a little too harsh right there. Okay, nice. Now we have two colors going. And now let's put the darkest right here. So again, we want a blue purple, but we want a darker version of the blue purple. So I've got that wild purple. You see how let me show you how I'm working off of this one little area on my plate because I've got colors that are similar to one another. I have the wild purple, I have the galaxy pink, and I have this deep sea blue. Okay. And so I can pull from all three of them to get variations here. And I want it to have a little bit more blue in it. There we go. So it's a purple, but it's a bluish purple. There we go. Let's put that one down in here. I'm just following along. I have those little lines here. And so I'm sort of following along with my lines. Nice. I've got the three tones, right? Three tones in there. So that is my background mountain. Now I may want to, again, add some water. So let's bring some water in here. And again, bring those together. I can always come back in later and darken certain areas. Usually I do a first pass and then I'll look at it and see what it needs and then I'll refine it. Okay. Based on the picture or based on just aesthetically what I want to see. Okay. So we've got those mountains in the background right there. And what do we now? The mid-tone mountain has a very dark, because it's got some green in it. So yes, we're dealing with the plants in that area, but they're in the dark. They're in the shade because the sun is coming from over here, and that's on the shady side of the mountains. So we want to use a green, but we want to use something that's quite dark. So let me show you. This was the green apatite that I had told you about before. And let's get a little area right here where we can put some of the greens. So this green apatite has a nice range from super light to dark. So we're going to use like a mid-tone, but it's very dark here in the shade. So that was green apatite, right? In this tube. Now this is blue apatite. So they're both the same stone, but it's the blue version of the stone and the green version of the stone. So I'm going to put the blue version right here. There we go. And these are Primatech. So these are from Daniel Smith. These two are crushed stones, Primatech colors, and they granulate, and I love that. So I'm going to start with the dark uh, from the blue apatite, and I'm going to put that in these areas, sort of right here. So these are where this, sort of the top of the mountain here. There we go. And then it actually comes in and around. There's some darkness. And then it also has, I'm looking at my picture to kind of see what I'm looking at here. I can always darken more later. So it's better to go lighter and then add the darkness. There's a lot of darkness down here. So I'm just going to go along the water line right there with this darkness. Okay. Let me see what else. Yep, comes up a little bit higher. So observing, looking at my picture, and I'm also then, and so for those of you who didn't see it before, this is the picture we're working on. You can find it in a post in the community area of my YouTube channel, or you can also find it on my website under events. And when I make the article from this workshop on my website blog, I will include this picture as well. But it is an AI picture that I generated on Canva. And you can see here a variation of sort of orangey, pinky, purple, dark, dark, dark. There's some green up in here. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. That's what we're developing right now. So just starting with some of the darker blue apatite. So if I make it a little more concentrated, then it's just that much darker. So I'm just doing it a little more concentrated here to get a darker color, because in the image we're really dark right here. Okay, and then we've got a lot of darkness in here as well. There we go. What I like about the shape of the cat's tongue, or what they call the oval wash, is that you can get it to look like plants. So let me show you that real quick. I like it for doing foliage, like in the far distance, because you can do this, and you see how that kind of gives you the look of maybe a tree line like that, the little triangles. And so that's what I love this brush for when I'm doing that. All right, let's see. It's also very dark down here. So let's continue with the apatite like this. But if you have another dark color, maybe an ultramarine blue, if you want it to be really dark, you can add to your ultramarine blue a little bit of alizarin crimson, which a lot of sets have, and that'll give you a nice dark, deep dark color. Okay. Just for right now, that's kind of my darkest. Ooh, it's a beautiful sunset. I'm actually seeing those colors outside my window right now. That kind of purple and peach and dark blue. Pretty. Okay. So then we're going to introduce, let's introduce a little bit of the wild purple. I like purple and green next to one another. I think that color combination looks really good. So I'm actually going to I'm going to drop, I can see there's a little bit of purple in here. So I'm going to drop a little bit of purple in here, a little bit of purple in here. And then there's a whole lot of purple right in here. That, like I said, I can always darken it later if I decide that I need darker color. Just throwing a little bit in there. And then now let's start looking at the green. Let me see what other green I have in here. Another green that I really like, that I use all the time, and I actually have a pan of it in one of my most used watercolor travel set, is this Cascade Green from um, Daniel Smith. So I'm going to put some of that here. And the nice thing about the Cascade Green is that if you put a lot of water with it, you actually get a blue coming out, which is like really interesting. So let me show you, where's the card for that? Let me show you the card for that. Do, 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 do. Come on, Cascade Green. Here it is. So you see how it's multiple colors in Cascade Green, and you can see how it separates out. And when you use a lot of water, you get a little bit of that blue showing. It's awesome. It's really nice for using with seascapes, I find, this Cascade Green. Huh. So let me put some of the Cascade Green in here. So it's kind of a dark blue green, and that's why I think it will look good with this. And I am not trying to be absolutely true to the picture, as you can see. I'm just, okay, let's just throw some of this down in there. And then what I'm seeing on that particular mountain is some green in this area, like close to that area. So this green apatite can go from a dark, dark, dark to a light. Can you see how light it gets? I love that about the green apatite in particular, which is the Primatech color from Daniel Smith. So I can come in here, and there was just a little bit of that light green along there, and a little bit of it in here as well. So if I throw a little more water in with it, it'll look a little more diffused and light, right? Let's get it like that. A little bit more down in here, like that. Some of it in here. As long as you're using colors from a same general color family, um, and like this blue green, the blue, they're all next to each other on the color wheel. Let me find my color wheel. So if you look on a color wheel, you've got your blue, you're into your violets and into your greens. So because they're next to each other on the color wheel, they'll play together very nicely. If I took a blue and I added an orange to it, I would get, there's the blue right there. I would get a mousy sort of brown or an olive color, and that may not be what you want. If you want to keep your colors clean in a particular area, it's helpful if you keep them near each other from the color wheel. Now up here where I've got the purple and the blue, I'm going to be adding some orange in there, and that's why I lifted some of the color out so that when I put the orange up in this area, I'm not going to get this mud. Because if I left the blue purple thick up here where I'm going to put the orange clouds, it would be a disaster. Okay. I can just tell you that from experience. Okay. So down here, we actually have some really cool looking sort of peachy pink, pinky orange going on. So I'm going to take some of the Aussie red, like this Aussie red gold. And I'm going to add some of that tundra pink to it over here. So I want it to be a little oranger. Come on, pink. Okay. So I want it to be sort of like a, nope, that's not the color I want. Okay, it's turning it brown. We don't want brown. So let me do this. See what's nice about this plate is if you're not getting what you want, you can just wipe it up in a second. So what's happened is this pink, this tundra pink, or is it right? Or no, galaxy pink, as I'm adding it to this um, Aussie red gold, it was turning into a brown. And I'm like, that is not what I want. I don't want a brown. So I'm just going to lift the brown out of here. What I'm looking for is something that's more peachy. So what I'm going to do is I actually have a color from Daniel Smith called Coral Reef, which just came out recently. And because, it's like some people have to have the latest technology. I have to have the latest colors. What can I tell you? So this is the very first time I'm opening this tube. Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. It's almost a neon color, but I don't want it to be quite that bright. Or maybe I do want it to be quite that bright. I don't know. Let's see. If you look in the reference image, it actually is very close to this color. Okay, so let's get some of that on the brush. And what looks like is this side of the hill right here where the sun is hitting it. It has this beautiful sort of peachy look to it. And some more over here. And what else? More over here, a little bit more up in there, a little bit more up in there where the light is hitting it. Now I'm probably going to put some of that sort of yellow color over top of it, which we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Right? And then this goes across here like this. Good, good, good. And there's some of it down underneath here as well. All right. That's interesting. Fun, fun, fun. Let's see. I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow because I want it to feel like the sun is hitting it. So I'm going to use the same yellow that we were using over here and sort of hit the top of that and glaze it. I'm going to put a little bit of it over top of that. And then we'll see. Yeah, that's better. So that's a technique in watercolor where you put one color down and then you can glaze it with another color. And especially when you're doing um, sunsets, that type of thing, or sunrises, where you've got a yellow glow over everything, you can put your colors down and then come back and then add the glow. Okay, let's see. All right, we're doing well. We're doing well on time. So I want to come in here now and put in the darker colors. So I need a little bit more of the purple, a little more purple in there. Boop. So let's bring some more of the lighter purple in for the background. I need to put in the base there. There we go. Yeah. it's a little bit light. I need it to be a little bit darker. Let's see if I can grab a little bit darker. Like I said, it's okay to put it in lighter. You can always come in and put it in darker. The hard part is lifting in order to get it lighter. That is the hard part. Okay, there we go there. There's the boat. We've got some here, and then we want it dark there. And there we go. Now you're going to notice that in my painting, you see how there's some white space left in there. I tend to do that. I tend to like to leave some white space in my painting. I don't feel like there needs to be paint everywhere. Um, some people don't like that, but that's the way that I like to paint. I like to paint with a little bit of the white showing so that it's more like people can fill it in with their mind. And I feel like having a little bit of that white shows you that it's a painting and not a photograph, right? So let's just do a little bit more of that in there. Okay, nice. All right. So right now there's not so much of a delineation between each mountain range, and I would go back later after everything is dry, and I would do more to delineate the difference between the back mountain range, the middle mountain range, and the front mountain range. So it's not necessarily done, but it's done for what we're doing right now. Let's look at now. Um, I'm going to go up into the sky right now because this is dry. And once I get this part down here wet, if if I go into this part first and then I try to work up here, I can get paint on my arms. So now that this is dry, we're going to go back up into here and put the orange. Um, we're going to do some orange clouds. Okay. So we're going to start with the Aussie red gold, and we're going to throw some in with the Aussie red gold and a little concentrated like that. So it just goes, there's a cloud that goes along here like this, and some more that are coming down here, sort of like this, and a few more here. Now there is some of these clouds here have a little bit of white on them. And what you can do after the fact is you can come in and put a little bit of white, either white marker, or you can use white gouache, which is a type of watercolor. And you can do it with that as well. But can you see how just using a different concentration of that Aussie red gives you these like really cool clouds? Okay, let's do a little bit more here. See, and I don't have to do anything, like it doesn't have to be perfect, y'all. We are just having some fun, right? Let's have some fun. Okay, and then a little bit more here. And there's going to be more up here where we're beginning to get between these two areas. Get a little bit more, some more here. You see why I'm loving that Aussie red gold now? I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. I am in love with this color. Let's put a little bit more of it out because we're going to need it for the water area as well. So again, Aussie red gold by Daniel Smith. Let's get some more of the concentrated, more orangey red part of it. Let's see, right up in here, like that, up into here, and a little bit more. This one was actually a little darker up in here. Okay. And this over here, the interesting thing about this part over here is there's a little bit of blue or purple up in there. So we're going to be adding some of that up in there. Let me get a little bit more over here. Okay. So you get the idea, right? We get the idea of how the clouds are going. Okay. And then now, oops, I see one other area where it's going to need a little bit of a cloud. It's probably going to need a little cloud over here. There we go. So now there's some purple that is near the tops of those clouds. So let's get some more of that wild purple in here, which is the Schminke wild purple. We'll put it back down where it was. Actually, we're going to need some more of the orange, aren't we? So that same orange, we're going to need to bring it up into this area. So the same orange we were just working on. If you have just a bright orange, use that. You can always combine orange and red together to get that sort of red orange look to it. So we're continuing this. So these are the areas where I left some white here, is where I'm going back in and putting more of that orange, because then that way I'm not going to get I can add it and not get too much of the visual mixing, or the possible mixing, which would be might look kind of ugly between orange and blue. So let's do some more here. It looks like in this area the clouds are a little bit more wispy up this way. Now remember, I'm working from an AI picture, so it's not even it's not even supposed to be realistic. This is not realism. This is more impressionism, which is what I like. But you may say, "Ooh, I don't like that." But that's fine. We all have different ways of painting or different ideas of what we like. And you know what? It's all good. Oh, I just got some right here. So I'm going to clean it up right away, because if it gets on my arm, oh my gosh, it's going to get everywhere. Let's pick that up and pick that up a little bit. Yeah, a little bit more. I can always darken it more with a little bit of red or something like that if that's what I wanted later, right? And bring this in. Yeah. Okay, so that's just beginning to build that. I could put another layer in if I wanted to. Um, One of the purposes of the workshop is to show you the granulation. So let me show you up in this area of the sky. Do you see the granulation that's in there? So the granulation was caused by us using that blue, which is the deep sea blue from Schminke. And deep sea blue is a granulating color. So we've used it up here in the sky, and we've also used it here in this mountain area. So you can see some of that granulation happening. We'll use a lot more of it down here in the water, and so you'll see it a lot more there. Let's get a little bit of this. I want to use some of the pink. Where's the pink? So I'm going to use some of the, that was a lot of pink. Okay. It was jumping out of the tube. This is the galaxy pink. from Schminke that I like so much. So let's I want to put a little bit of this Galaxy Pink in here, also a granulating color. Remember though, if you want it to granulate, you gotta add lots of water to it. So I'm going to put some of this pink in here because the clouds, the closer up you're getting here, you're getting some uh, pink with the clouds. Okay, there we go. Just throwing a little bit of that in there. Just for something, something. Let me get a little bit more of that. And we're gonna go just a little bit more in here. So we've got some of that pink. We're beginning to see a little bit of that pink here. Okay, well, I will come back later. This is not gonna be a finished product when we're done. It'll be close, but it'll give you the idea of what we're doing. Okay. So actually, remember before I used this blue apatite and I did it near the water line? So I'm actually going to grab a little bit more of that blue apatite and I want to bring it here. So again, I'm creating sort of um, a delineation of this is where the water line is here. And I'm also going to bring it in right in here so that we have a water line. So we know where the water line is. There we go. See, we need to soften the edge of that. So let's just add a little more water and sort of soften the edge of that. There we go. But at least it's dark and we can, oh, it actually needs to be a little bit darker, but I'm gonna bring in my little tiny brush because the darkest dark needs to be right here at the base where the water meets the mountain. There we go. What about in the background here? And there's a little bit of darkness right in here too. And I can bring in with this brush. There we go. Good enough. Good enough. Good enough. It can always be modified later. Yahoo. Soften that a little bit. Okay. But at least you know where the water is. Okay. So now if we've got the Aussie red gold up in the sky here, the way this image is, you've got a heavy reflection right here. So you see the lightest light right here where the sun is. So we're going to put that in first because we want the lightest light first. And then we're going to build some more of the orange and then the darkest orangey red there and bring it a little bit into here. And then we'll build the blue around it. Okay. So let's do that next. And I'm just going to do a very, very pale version of this Aussie red gold, but very pale, like the sun is there. So I'm using lots of water with it. And then I'm putting it along here. So it's just very light. It's okay if it's just super light. And then we're going to bring some of it here. And because of the way the water moves, I'm just moving the tip of this so that I'm getting some variation. I'll show you in just a second. But this is your lightest light you're going to try to preserve. Now, some people might use the, what is it called? They might use the masking fluid to do this, which would be fine to do that as well. Just use the masking fluid. So the lightest light. And as we get a little further this direction, of course, that lightest light is going to become a little bit darker. So I just grabbed a little bit more of the color, the yellow, and let's see how wide it goes. And then it sort of gets a little bit more narrow here. Okay, so that is the brightest reflection from the sun there. And then now we're going to go a little darker. Woohoo! We're going to go a little bit darker with the Aussie red gold. And then we're going to get into this quinacridone sienna, which is very orange. Okay, so let's do just a little bit darker of the Aussie red gold. Now we're going to bring a little bit of that in there. Right, so we're going along here. I don't even have to do it all. I can leave some white there because it could be just the rippling of the waves, right? So here we go. Plus, I don't have to worry. I can go right over top of it with the orange anyway. And then this right here. So this is that that beautiful sunset color. And I'm just going back and forth, preserving the that very light color, but coming into the light color just a little bit. So it's kind of broken up. You don't want it to be too like just the light color. The light color is actually in among the darker colors. There we go. Right. You might not be able to see it, but I can see the difference between the lightest color and the white. So I'm just throwing this in where there's a lot of white. What you want to be aware of is when we put the blue in, you do not want to put the blue over top, if you can help it, of this sort of orangey color, because the blue color, blue and orange makes brown, like a mousy brown, and we don't want mousy browns in our artwork. So um, you have to sort of bear that in mind. So I'm just going over it again with a little bit more of the color that I picked up. So it's getting a little bit darker, right? Okay. What's nice about this brush is you see how I'm using it on its side so that it is it's sort of bending for me and it's letting me use the side of it. Okay, let's see here. How we doing? How we doing? That's good. That's good. Nice. All right. Well, we've got it that far. Let's put some orange in it, which is this quinacridone sienna. So it's quinacridone sienna, which is actually a kind of orange. So now we're going to bring the orange in here. Yikes. Right? It's super strong. But I may come back and make the make that Aussie red gold a little bit darker as well at some point. So let's just bring this in. Yeah, you really can just sort of have fun, skip over it because we're going to have more of this dark orange over here. The dark orange is actually going to be on both sides there. I just want this to be a little bit more orange in this area right here. Fun. Okay, cool. So I've got this side. Now let's go. Need a little bit more water. Ooh, it's looking good. And then maybe I can push this up just a little bit so you can see it a little bit more easily. Okay, so now I'm looking at the picture. There's quite a bit of blue over in this area, so I need to leave some room for the blue to come in. And as it gets this way, we have a lot more orange that's going to come into the middle here. There we go. You can see, you can see that you can see this reflection of the sun, so that's good. As it gets further this way, it becomes more narrow. So that's what I'm doing here. Just making it a little bit more narrow. There we go. So there we are right there. That's kind of the idea there of the water. Actually, I'm going to put the tiniest little bit of orange, this Quin Sienna. I'm going to put a little bit of it right over here, just because, to sort of get a little bit of variation in there. There we go. Okay. It's a little bit, it encroached a little bit too much, so I'm going to lift some of that up. I don't want it to be too orange right there. So I'm just lifting some of it up. There we go. Okay. I just wanted there to be a tiny bit of orange way back in where there's a distance there. Okay. So now we're going to be putting blue in here. And I want to start with um, that beautiful granulating, this deep sea blue. So I'm going to start with that. We already have some there, but I'm going to add a little bit more. And it is a granulating color, but it's going to need a lot of water to make it granulate. So now, do you see this water right here, how orange it is? If I start dipping it in to the blue, I'm going to mute that blue color. The blue color is going to start to turn dark. So what I want to do instead is I want to pour that out and get some fresh water. So I keep just, I don't have a sink here in the studio, it's in the other side of the house. So I'm going to take these brushes that I just rinsed and I'm going to put them in fresh water. And I'm going to pour this one out like this. And where's a paper towel? I'm going to get the color out of there like this. There we go. Hey there, what is that peachy pink color? Amber Russell asked. Oh, thank you. Amber Rundle said, love that golden color, so pretty, and your reference picture is beautiful. The reference picture is an AI image that I created on Canva. I love using Canva to get AI reference images, and that this incredible color here that's red yellow is the Aussie red gold. And then this, much more orange color is the quinacridone sienna, and those are from Daniel Smith. Okay, so let's give ourselves some fresh water here. Yay. So because I don't have a sink, I have to keep this dump water container and some extra water here so that I don't have to go all the way into the other end of the house in order to do that. And actually, I have to take a drink of water. Mm. Okay, so what I did here was I went ahead and this is another container of water. So when I'm doing watercolor, I always have at least two waters. And actually, on my table right now, I have three waters because you just never know. So there's even, see how I'm taking the water out of there, and there's even a little bit of orange in there. So I was trying to get it as much of the color out as possible before I dip into the blue. So we're going to get into this blue right here. Nice. This is the Schminke Deep Sea Blue Super Granulating color. And we're going to put it all over here. And I'm using lots of water because I want it to granulate. Ooh, it's already granulating. It looks great. Now, like I said, if you put it over top of the orange, what's going to happen is it's going to get kind of a brown color to it, and I don't want a brown color. So, um, but that's why I left lots of white spots here, so I can go back into it like this, and I don't have to put the blue directly over top of the orange. There are some areas where I can bring the blue in where it's white. And that way you'll maintain your blue. It won't turn into mud because blue and orange are opposite each other on the color wheel. They look terrific next to each other, but on top of one another or mixed with one another, they look brown. So there we go. So let's just bring it in here. Water. I'm going around the sailboat, right? And I'm just bringing a little bit of it into here, trying to avoid the orange, just going around the orange as much as I can, right? I could even use a smaller brush if I wanted to be a little more precise there. But I like the tip of this cat's tongue. It's not bad. It works. Ooh, there we go. Right. E. Now, a little bit of it went over top of the lighter color there, and now it almost looks green right there because what blue and yellow makes green. So that's why I'm trying to avoid the other colors. Okay, here we go. This is just the edge of the boat right there. And what I'm doing is just putting it all in the areas where there is supposed to be water. And then I can come back and darken some of the areas. So right now I just want to do this, right? And get that in there, get that in there. Here, a little bit of white there, a little bit of white there, a little bit of white there. Okay. And now I'm going to add a little bit more of it in here so I can get some more the feel of water going in there. Okay, so you see how I put a lot of it there. It just, that's essentially a second layer right there. And then I need some of it back in here. Back in behind the sailboat. There we go. Okay, so now I need some darker blue. Because in the reference photo, you can see over here that there are some darker areas, but you see how it's granulating already? Ugh, I just love it. Love it. Oh, and you know what? They put a lot more, the AI image has a lot more blue coming over into here. So I'm just going to put little bitty bits. Don't have to have too much. Like that. There we go. Anything more? Yes. I need some more. I need some more. Okay. There you go. And a little bit here. Good enough. Good enough. Oh, look at that. Okay, do you see the granulation there? That makes me so happy. So happy. Oh, the somebody was asking about the peach color, peachy pink color. It's the Daniel Smith Coral Reef. Coral Reef. REEF, like, a reef under the water. There we go. So you'll notice that I haven't done anything with the boat yet. And to work on the boat, I would use, my little tiny brushes or smaller brushes like this in order to work on the actual boat itself. And then of course I would come in with a pen to put in the lines. Okay, I actually think this is looking pretty good. Now, what I want to do is I want to bring in some of that Mayan. So this is the Mayan Blue Genuine Primatech color from Daniel Smith. Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. And it's a nice dark blue. Let me see if I have it here so you can see. Yeah, there's the Mayan blue right there. What I like about it is it's kind of a blue green a little bit. So let's get some of that on there. Nice. And then I'm going to use that sort of as my shadow here around the boat here. I'm just bringing in like an extra shadow color, darkening it a little bit. The part that's back behind here needs to be darkened a little bit as well because it's way back in the back. Let's darken this area back here too, near the mountain, right? That's kind of dark. There we go. So I just dropped in a little bit more darkness using the Mayan blue. But I love the granulation here. So see the granulation is just as it dries, it gets more granulated. It's awesome. Okay, so let's see what we want to do next. Um, I want to bring the, is this all dry? This should be all dry. Yeah. Okay, so let's clear the sails. And like I said, you want the whole area where your sails are, where the frisket is, or the uh, what is that? The masking fluid. You want that area to be stone dry before you try to take it off, and it is. So we're gonna just using my fingers. Like I said, normally I would get myself a. I have the. Do I have one on the table here? I thought I had one. I put one here, but I guess I don't. One of those special rubber cement erasers. But you can use your finger. The only thing that I worry about with my finger is that there's a little bit of moisture in your hands. So you want your hand to be completely dry. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm drying my hand because if you have any moisture at all in your fingers, you can smudge the paint around it. And that's why I like using the rubber cement eraser to take it off. But isn't this awesome? Awesome. Okay. Now that blue right there is wet, so I do have to be careful of that. I'm going to turn it this way so that I can get those little bits off of there without messing up the blue. I'm going to do it in this direction. Let's do this. There we go. Nice. So you see how the you see how the masking fluid works. It's awesome, right? Woo. Fantastic. So now even though I did all that work around the sky, I preserved the area where these sails are. I'm being real careful here because that blue is still a little bit wet and I don't want to get blue all over my sail. Eeh, I got a little bit of blue on the sail. Not bad, not bad. Okay, there we go. Some people say that they just love this part of it and they love doing it with their fingers because it's very tactile, right? Yeah. Okay. So let me take that off. Nice. Fantastic. So now we're back to the sails being white. Isn't that fun? And I could have done the same thing for the sailboat while I was working on it. I just made sure that I kept my brush away from the sailboat. But if I wanted to be sure that I was going to keep the sailboat pretty much white, then I could have covered that too. Now, this is where I might come in with my pen or a pencil. This is a watercolor pencil. I don't want to use a watercolor pencil here because when I add more water, I don't want the water to run. So I have a container here that has pencils that are not water soluble. So let's find a nice one, nice looking one. Let's see. Hello, this one. Okay. So this is not a water soluble pencil, and I'm going to use it to darken the lines here of the sailboat. There we go. This is the edge of the sailboat. And then this is the back of the sailboat here. There we go. And then, yes, I'm going to outline this part of the sailboat too. Why not? Yep. There we go. So that's just to help me with the sailboat. And there is a stripe right here on the sailboat. So let's use a small brush. So I have a whole bin here of small brushes. I could either use a like an acrylic marker if I wanted to use that to put the stripe on it, or in this case, I've got small brushes. This looks like it might work right here. And I can use one of these to kind of do the pinstripe, right? Now, I need a dark color. Mm, What kind of dark color do I want to use? I want to use this, maybe this one, the Mayan blue would be kind of pretty. So let's take the Mayan blue and I'm going to put a stripe down the boat. Ooh, let's get the brush on there. So I'm not talking because you need to have a steady hand, right? To put a stripe on. There we go. Yay. So we have our stripe down the side of the boat. Woo, woo. And then let's see. Now there is some blue up in the sails. If you look just from, you've got your sun shining here, and then you've got some shadow in the back here. So let's put a little bit of the effect of the sunshine. Let me put that back up there. Eeh, stay, stay. The effect of the sunshine. So I'm dipping back into the, oops, I don't want to use this one. It's too small. Um, but I am going to use this one. That's the size 6. Yeah, size 6 velvet touch. So I want to put a little bit of just a hint of this yellow from the Aussie red gold. So I just want to put a hint of that along this side right here of the sail. When I say a hint, I mean a hint, just a hint of that right there. And if it's when it dries, if it's too light, you know what to do. Just come back in with another layer. It's fine. So I'm just making sure there's a glow on the front edge of the sail where the sail would be facing the sun. Now I can see I'm missing the mast, right? There's a sail here, but where's the mast that the sail goes on? Well, that's where I use my marker. So I'll show you that in just a second. So I'm just going to make this glow just a little bit more. I want a little more color on there. It's so pretty. Okay, and we're going to make this glow just a little bit more too. A little bit more color. Okay, so that's the leading side, and then you've got your blues, and you've got, okay, I don't want this brush. That is a detail brush. What I want is I want this brush, which is more um, diffused. And I just want to put a light version of this blue, just a light version right here. This is actually a shadow. Um, it's not that this uh, sail is blue. It's just that it's a shadow. So let's just put some shadow blue here. This is the Mayan blue with lots of water in it, giving me a sort of a shadow. And then we want to go a little bit darker with the blue. And we're going to bring that darker blue in here. Notice though, it's a different blue. It's a different blue from the water. So if you're doing a shadow like this, you can use the same blue as the water, but I like to use a different blue from the water. There we go. So that's a little bit of a shadow there. And the same over here. Just added a tiny bit of water, so we've got just a little bit of a shadow going there. And a little darker on the back end here. We're going to have a heavier shadow, a little bit more blue, right? We're bringing it a little bit heavier. There we go. So now we've got our shadows on our sails there. And then um, I would bring, let's see, I'm going to use the marker so you can see what I do with the marker. And I'm looking to see where it is. Okay, that looks like it would be down here. So this is that a grabby marker that I was talking about before. And let me find it. Let me find it. There it is. Okay, so this is an acrylic paint marker, black, fine tip. And let's take a piece of paper and get it started on the piece of paper, okay? Because you want to be sure that the ink is flowing. Ooh, before we do that, look at that. Look at that area right there. Isn't that amazing? Can you see the granulation there? I love using granulation in the water. Ah, it's so pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna put the mast in here because, hey, we can't have a sail just sitting there. Like, where's the mast? So the mast is here, right in front of where the sail is, a little bit behind it. And it just comes down to the top of here. So this is an acrylic marker that I'm using. So there is some paint here in the background. That's okay. There's some background color. But I just need to get the mast in there, right? So this is an easy way to go right over top of your acrylic, I'm sorry, your watercolor. You can use your acrylic markers to go over top of the watercolor, right? And if you're using a black like this, it just covers right over top of whatever your watercolor paint was. Yep. Let's do that. So the mast is partway behind the sail. Let's see. Whoop. Right, there we go. So this is a fine tip, so I'm going over it a little bit of a second time to sort of thicken that up a little bit. And so now we have a mast. Yay. And then if I want to, I can either use this or I can use black watercolor to put the little windows in, but I think I'll use this. So we've got a window right back here that goes like this and then comes up like this and like that. So there's one window. There's another little window here. And then a third little tiny window up here. And then you can just fill these in with the black marker. Isn't that cool? I just love this. I love having the black marker available to do this detail work. I mean, I could have just come in with black uh, watercolor, but what I find with the black watercolor is it's not easy to get these rectangles uh, in black watercolor or in any watercolor. It's not very easy to make a rectangle. So if I do that with a fine tip pen like this grabby acrylic marker, it makes it a lot easier. And then there's more for me to build back in here, but I'll do that off camera. So um, that is the basics of doing one of these paintings and using the granulating colors like that. So of course, I'm going to have to come back in with this and put in the lines here. You see all the lines here and the lines here, right? And so I will put those lines in. Um, I'll use the black first, and then what I like to do on top of the black is come in with a silver. So I have a silver pen here. This is the Uniball by Signo. And I like to use this or the gold. Actually, there's a lot of yellow here. So let me find the gold one, which I have in here somewhere. And I'll show you what I would do there. Because what I want to do is I want to put a glint on that metal, don't I? Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm looking for it. I have like a million pens and pencils in here. I haven't unpacked all of this from when I went to my daughter's house. So come on, gold, you can do it. There it is in the bottom. All right. So I'm going to take this gold and let's get it flowing. There we go. And wherever there's like this black metal right here, I'm going to take the gold and I'm going to come here and I'm just running it down the side that would be facing the sun, right? Because wouldn't the sun glint off of that? So I'm just running it right down here. And then I have the tiniest bit of metallic, and I do that for the lines as well. So when I put the lines on the boat, I take either a silver or a gold and I go down the line and add that, just that little glinty detail that, so it looks like the sun is glinting off of it. Okay, so that is the end of the workshop. I do, I will be finishing this and I'll have it available to show at the beginning of the next workshop because I want to work back into the clouds some more and I want to do some more work on the boat here. I want to do some more detail work on the mountains. So you can see this is a good beginning. Actually, it's probably 3/4 of the way through and then I just have that little bit of extra work to do on it. I want to thank you for joining me for this workshop, and the workshop portion of the show is done.